The courtroom was packed, cameras flashing, reporters whispering, tension thick in the air. At the defense table sat General Marcus Hill, a tall black man in his late 50s, wearing a simple gray suit instead of his uniform. His face was calm, but his eyes carried the quiet authority of someone who'd seen war and earned every stripe. Across from him, smirking with arrogance, stood Officer Jake Miller, the cop who had arrested him a week earlier for resisting authority. He leaned back in his chair, laughing softly with his buddies. "Man thinks he's a hero just 'cause he played soldier," Jake whispered. "Let's see him talk big in front of a judge." The judge entered, and everyone stood. Cameras turned. The case had already gone viral. Decorated Army general arrested by local cop, but no one yet knew the full story. The prosecutor began, his voice smug. "Your Honor, the defendant refused lawful orders during a traffic stop. He became aggressive and disobedient." General Hill didn't interrupt. He just listened quietly, hands folded. When it was his turn, he stood slowly. His voice was deep but calm. "Your Honor, may I show something before I speak?" The judge nodded. "Proceed." Hill reached into his briefcase and pulled out a tablet. He pressed play. The courtroom fell silent as a dashcam video appeared on screen, the full recording from the night of the arrest. Jake's grin vanished instantly. The video showed him pulling over Hill's black SUV. "License and registration," Jake barked. Hill had handed them over politely. "Of course, officer. May I ask what this is about?" Jake sneered. "Driving a car too nice for your kind. Step out." Gasps rippled through the courtroom. The judge's face hardened. Jake could be heard laughing on the video. "You think that uniform on your plates scares me? You ain't special." The clip ended. Silence swallowed the room. The judge turned slowly. "Officer Miller, care to explain this?" Jake stammered, sweat forming at his temple. I didn't know who he was, ma'am." Hill finally looked up, his gaze sharp. "You didn't need to know who I was. You just needed to respect that I'm a citizen." Then he picked up his phone calmly and pressed a single contact labeled, Pentagon Command. "General Hill here," he said. "Please patch me through to the Secretary of Defense." The entire room froze. Within seconds, a voice came through the speaker, firm and clear. "Marcus, I've been briefed. We're watching this live. Do you need assistance?" The courtroom erupted in murmurs. The judge's gavel slammed. "Order." Jake's face drained of color. He couldn't believe what he was hearing. Hill looked straight at him. "No, Madam Secretary. I just wanted someone to witness how far respect for service has fallen." He ended the call. The silence that followed was heavy, electric. The judge's tone was ice. "Officer Miller, I think you've said enough without saying another word." "Greater than, case dismissed," she declared. "And this court will be forwarding a report to Internal Affairs." As people stood, Hill adjusted his jacket and turned toward Jake. His voice was low, steady, but it cut deeper than any yell. "Greater than, you thought you arrested a man beneath you. Turns out, you just disrespected the man who trained the ones protecting you." Jake couldn't even look him in the eye. Hill walked out of the courtroom, the American flag behind him waving softly. Outside the courthouse, the air was thick with tension and flashing lights. Reporters swarmed like bees, shouting questions. "General Hill, how does it feel to be vindicated? Do you plan to take legal action?" Hill didn't answer. He just walked down the marble steps, slow and steady, every inch the soldier he'd always been. His assistant, Captain Reyes, caught up to him. "Sir, that video went viral in minutes." The secretary herself called. "The department's under investigation." Hill nodded faintly. "Good. But this isn't about revenge, Captain. It's about respect." Reyes frowned. "You really just let him walk out?" "After what he did." Hill looked at her, his eyes calm but tired. "He'll live with what he did. Sometimes shame teaches louder than punishment." Behind them, Officer Jake Miller stood at the courthouse doors, handcuffed now, his once cocky expression replaced with humiliation. The same officers he used to mock were the ones escorting him away. The crowd that had once laughed at the general's expense now stared at him with newfound respect. One reporter called out, "General Hill, any message for America?" He paused, glanced at the flag fluttering in the wind, and said softly, "Greater than, freedom isn't free. But neither is dignity. It's time people remember that both deserve protection." The crowd fell silent. His words hit harder than any press statement. Later that night, Hill sat alone at his home office, the old photos on the wall lit softly by his desk lamp, a young soldier shaking hands with presidents, standing with troops overseas. He stared at a frame of his younger self in uniform and whispered, "I fought for this country, but sometimes the fight comes home wearing a badge." His phone buzzed, a message from the Pentagon. "We're reinstating your advisory position. The president wants you at the next ethics reform meeting." Hill exhaled deeply, setting the phone down. "Good," he murmured. "Maybe this time, we'll teach them the meaning of honor." Outside, sirens echoed faintly in the distance, but this time, they didn't sound like fear. They sounded like change. 2 weeks later, a knock echoed through General Hill's quiet home. He opened the door to find Officer Jake Miller standing there, not in uniform, but in plain clothes. His face looked older somehow, drained of arrogance. "General Hill," he said softly. I didn't think you'd even open the door." Hill studied him for a moment. "You're lucky I believe in second chances," he replied. "Come in." Jake stepped inside nervously, hands trembling. "I lost everything, sir. My job, my badge, my reputation. Everyone hates me. I just wanted to—" He stopped, his voice cracking. "I wanted to say I'm sorry." Hill stayed silent for a moment, then poured 2 cups of coffee and handed one over. "Sit," he said simply. Jake hesitated. "Why are you being kind to me? I humiliated you in front of the whole country." Hill looked him straight in the eye. "Because I've seen what hate does, son. It doesn't destroy your enemies, it destroys you." Jake swallowed hard. "I thought I was enforcing the law. I didn't realize I was breaking the very thing it stood for." Hill nodded slowly. "That's the difference between power and integrity. One can be handed to you. The other you earn every day." For a long moment, they sat in silence, just 2 men on opposite sides of a mistake, both trying to find peace. Hill finally stood and handed Jake a small envelope. "This is a contact from the Veterans Outreach Program. They help men rebuild what they lost, inside and out. I made the call already. They'll expect you." Jake looked stunned. "You'd do that, for me?" Hill gave a faint smile. "You fell. That doesn't mean you can't stand again." Tears welled in Jake's eyes. He stood and saluted, voice shaking. "Sir, I'll make it right. I swear." Hill nodded once. "Then start by living like every person you meet wears a uniform you can't see." Jake left quietly, shoulders heavier but heart lighter than it had been in years. As the door closed, Hill looked toward the folded flag on his mantle, the same one he'd carried through battle. "Greater than justice isn't about revenge," he whispered. "It's about redemption." The screen fades to black. Text on screen. "True strength isn't in how hard you fight, it's in how deeply you forgive."